Okay, so the first weekly update of the year really is I want to touch on the top 5 practice areas or areas of law to watch out for in 2025 going into 2026. This is from extensive research that our data team does. We're tracking the markets. Our analysts are always looking at everything. It comes from the remuneration reports that we do across the African continent. So it's a real amalgamation of a lot of information about what is growing, not just in practice, but also in-house as well, and the areas to watch out for where you may want to take your career. Now, the difficulty in this always is that we are talking about the African continent, and I appreciate, with all due respect, that all of those 54 countries are slightly different and they have differing needs. So apologies to the listeners now. We're going to just tackle it as Africa as best we can. Now, the top 5 areas, typically we'll look at corporate and litigation and project finance and infrastructure and banking. But I'm going to try and look outside of that because they're always growing. There's always opportunities at law firms and in-house for those with that type of background. But I want to look at the 5 fastest growing areas and the ones we really need to keep an eye on. Number 1 is energy law. Energy law across the whole continent, and especially in the major markets like Algeria, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, South Africa, the 5 biggest economies on the continent, mainly due to changes in regulation. There's a lot of reg work going on that leads to a lot of legal work. There's a lot of focus on that. In-house, and the practice teams are growing. So energy law is number 1. Number 2, tied into that, is environmental and climate change law. Now, whatever side of the political fence you sit on, I don't care. It's an area that is growing. It's a growing area because of, again, back into regulation, really, and just the fact that, things like ESG might be arguably dying, certainly with a lot of the law firms and a lot of the banks pulling out of certain accords. Trump's now come into the US and has pulled out of the Paris Accord on day one. The banks had already done it. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs had already pulled out. BP and Shell have told the world that they're not going to meet their climate goals. The car manufacturers have stopped making EV cars. There might be a slowdown on that side, but there's still a big push on the environmental and climate change, certainly on the law side of things. So it's an area that is going to continue to grow, and it's going to affect deal flow, and it's going to affect the job market, therefore. Number 3, and this is the thing that I think is the biggest growing area, and it's in cybersecurity and data privacy, mainly because of the advent of AI. And I'm also talking outside of just OpenAI being sued by everybody in America at the moment. But, AI is an amazing tool, and we love it. It's great, and it's going to transform the way that we work and what we do every day. But it brings into question a huge data privacy and cybersecurity issues. And this is a massive thing that's growing. And it's growing importance, not just in private practice, but the in-house lawyers, the general counsels. You guys are going to have real understanding across the borders, across every aspect of your business, is going to come under attack. Just a small anecdote, one of the people I interviewed recently for the Legal Unicorns podcast mentioned a lawyer looking for training from his partner in a major law firm in the US, and couldn't get any time because the guy was closing a deal and couldn't give him any time. So he uploaded a load of documents and asked ChatGPT to assess his work. That brings into question a huge amount of client confidentiality. So that's just one small anecdote where life is going to change on that front. Number 4 is employment and labor law across Africa, across practice, across businesses. There's certain countries that are getting tighter and tighter on their employment and labor laws, which can be seen as a good thing. Certainly, it depends on which side of the fence you're sitting on. But it's a growing area. And the more focus on Africa and African countries, the more foreign direct investment, the more businesses are growing. the more the employment and labour law is going to grow, and that's going to be a hot area in the coming years for the job market. And finally, and because of the growth in all of those areas, cross-border and corporate work, transactional work is booming, and it's going to continue to boom. So if you are a good corporate M&A lawyer, you're going to have a very good year this year, not just in your work and the deals that you're doing, but in the companies that are going to want to hire you and the law firms that are going to want to poach you as well. So that's my top 5 areas to look out for, both in-house and practice this year.